Okay, so very warm welcome, everyone. I'm happy to that you could join me today on your Saturday. Sorry, whether it's a morning or evening for you. So thank you for joining. Maybe just a few kind of logistical things. Probably by now everyone has used Zoom, but you can use your mute button here, and we'll try to keep everyone muted for the most part. Video button, so it's really nice to kind of see who I'm talking to and to see each other. It kind of creates a little bit more connectedness to this group that we're going to be meditating together with. So feel free to use that, but of course you can do what you like. And a little chat button here down in the right corner, and we'll be using that throughout the call, and I'll ask you some questions and to keep the whole thing a bit more interactive and engaging. Okay, so first of all, just without really taking any special seat or something, but just kind of be comfortable or become comfortable as you are, and you're welcome to close down the eyes. And just settling into the simple recognition of the act of sitting. And just kind of finding this rest in the simplicity of not trying to do anything specific. So we will undergo more intensive period of meditation. 2 hours a day can be quite a lot, especially if you are not used to it. So kind of just recognizing this commitment for the next 10 days. And also understanding why you are doing it. You are choosing to be here. And you have your own specific reason for that. But we all have this in common. So everyone on the call, all 14 of us here from different parts of the world. There's Hong Kong, there's Italy, there's Germany, there's Thailand, there's Australia, there's I think some in North America. So many different places. And all of these wonderful people have this shared commitment, just like you, to be with themselves for the next 10 days or so, to practice meditation a little bit more intensively, to see what this is about, to go a bit deeper. And while each of us comes with our own individual reasons, we all kind of arrive or come to the same place, the same space. So let's just take a moment to feel this shared sense of the Sangha, the community. And so you are not alone in this, and there are other people practicing, and we will all face some difficulties, which is normal. Some highs, some lows, and we have our support groups, our WhatsApp group, to always reach out, and you can reach out to me. And now I just want to take a few moments to go through 5 precepts. So these are kind of 5 guidelines, 5 orienting principles for ethical behavior, which are really nice to see if you can maintain or follow for the 10-day course, so for the more intensive meditation period. I will just go through them one by one. And you can just kind of mentally maybe repeat them or reflect on them and see if you wish to try and follow them. The first precept is to abstain from killing, to abstain from taking life, however big or small. And secondly, we have to abstain from stealing, to abstain from taking what is not given freely. So material items or ideas can be anything. And thirdly, we have to abstain from lying, to abstain from false or harmful speech. And fourthly, we have to abstain from the use of intoxicating substances. So we will try to create more clarity of observation, more clarity of mind. And it's really helpful just to try to really limit or even don't take your intoxicating substances, whether that is alcohol or something else. And lastly, we have to abstain from the use of, to abstain from sexual misconduct. So the misuse of sex, sexual energy. And by misuse, I mean the harmful expression of it. Okay. So I will send something out also about these precepts if you want to read more about them. But for now, that is enough. And yeah, you can open up the eyes again. So yeah, these precepts that we see if we can take during the 10-day course are really helpful for the meditation practice. Not only do they make you a bit more aware throughout the day about, oh, what is my behavior actually and how do I interact with all of these things, but they also kind of create the right conditions for meditation. So it's going to be a lot more easy to meditate if we're not feeling guilty or greedy about taking things, or it's a lot more difficult to meditate when we're a bit intoxicated, the mind is not as clear. And so these kind of guidelines can be very helpful for more intensive practice. So you are your own master, so you can follow them if you wish or not, but they're helpful. Okay. So maybe a bit about myself, who is this person that is doing this course. My name is Raimar, and I grew up in Germany. I grew up in Germany and kind of moved to Australia to study. I actually studied economics and finance and worked a little bit in the finance industry. And in parallel to studying, I was also kind of discovering this world of firstly yoga and then kind of also some YouTube meditations, which helped me study a bit better and go for job interviews, helped me focus. And then as I went a bit deeper, I also discovered Vipassana meditation, the 10-day Vipassana retreat with Goenka. And yeah, I was kind of practicing quite intensively, firstly in parallel to my kind of full-time finance job. And then at some point I decided to stop that and pursue meditation and just the research into mind and body a little bit deeper. So I went to Thailand in the beginning of COVID, and I practiced in some monasteries there, and I also kind of continue to research not just the mind but also the body with different movement practices, with dance improvisation, with free diving. So this is really my interest and my passion. And at some point, I also decided to start sharing the practice when I felt I was ready, and this Vipassana at home thing was born from that, which I've been doing now for 2 years. And I'm happy to kind of share a perspective on practicing and balancing with the work life, practicing and balancing with relationships, and with interest also in bridging that with movement and embodiment practices. And yeah, I'm excited to be together for the next 10 minutes. And I'm here to support you, so you can always write me a message. You can always reach out, and we hope to support each other. Okay. So to jump right into the kind of content, I made some kind of slides. So some corporate world has not left me, just as some visual aid also. And so I will share that. Okay. So what is this meditation thing? So you all maybe have some different ideas about what meditation is, and depending, maybe you have some practice, maybe not. But the roots of it are essentially lie with the Buddha. And the Buddha was not a religious person. He was much more of a science of body and mind. He was researching, investigating how this whole thing works, how this whole structure of body and mind works. And he really went quite deep into this. And his study was basically about how to be happy, how to not be in a life of suffering, in a life of struggling, in a life of fighting, always with emotions, with thoughts, with things on the outside, and to live a wise and harmonious life, essentially. And, whoops, what did I do there? And he had kind of basic ideas, which also all other religions or even non-religious people have. So the first one is, of course, to do no harm. This already creates some basic level of happiness. So we have these precepts which try to keep us in line a little bit, to not harm ourselves and not to harm others with our behavior, with our speech, with our thought. And of course, also to see if we can do a bit more good, practice a little bit more loving kindness, both on the action level, so doing good things for ourselves, for others, but also on the speech level, and not slandering, not talking super badly about people, and which not only harms others but also harms ourselves. So just to good like this. But the Buddha also went much deeper than this. So the Buddha also was an advocate for the practice. And so these two things are the practice of sila. So sila means morality in Pali. It is the practice of doing no harm, doing good. So even if you decide right now, okay, you know what, from this very moment, whatever happened in the past, I'm going to be friendly and good to the people around me today, tomorrow, this week. And that already creates a little bit of feeling of positivity, of happiness. But to go deeper, we really also want to practice meditation. So meditation, and many, you might understand different things under meditation, so we'll dig a little bit into that. But to practice meditation is essentially not just to work with the apparent reality, not just work with the different objects, the people that we interact with, our work and things, that kind of, let's call it the outside world, and our role in that outside world. But it is also to go a bit deeper, to sit with ourselves. And that's what we're doing when we're creating this formal meditation period. So we are creating an environment, a container, where we're not having any stimulation. We are kind of simplifying experience. We are closing our eyes, and we are really seeing how this works. And we are working to cultivate certain qualities in ourselves in a very specific setting, where it's very easy to do, where there's no stimulation, where we sit with ourselves. And so that later we can also bring this into every moment of our lives. So meditation is really not something separate from our lives. It is just just like when we are learning to drive, we start driving in the empty parking lot where we can't hit so many things, and we have to first figure out how the car works, how the gears work, how the mirrors work, how the gas pedal works, the brake. And so we start in an empty parking lot. So the meditation period is really like the empty parking lot. And then later we drive around in the busy traffic and apply that. So a really important question is, what is important to you? What do you want? Why are you here? And why do you want to meditate? And you can answer that in the chat. So maybe just not many words, not more than a phrase or something of why you are here, your intention, what do you want? To be happy. Wonderful. Connect to the flow of life, connect to peace. To create space for and within myself. Calm. To access higher reality. And what do you want? Change some habits and improve and update your vision. Interesting. Do you mean your visual vision or just your vision of everything in general?
No, I mean like my dreams and my purpose in life, actually.
Nice. Good. So to update and find maybe what is the better purpose, or to see more so that you can create a better. Wonderful. Finding balance in everyday life. To spread love and feel liberated. Excellent. So anyone else that would like to share? Reconnect to our inner self and connect to higher source. To be more at ease with myself. Lovely. Very, very simple. So yeah, many different reasons, you see. We all come here for different reasons. So it's important to know what is important to you and why you are meditating, because this will really it will be kind of like an orienting principle and something you can come back to when things get difficult, when things get tough, or you get distracted, or you get bored of it, to know what inspires you to do it, not to have to force yourself, not to because you have to, but because you want to. And this reason to meditate, it might keep changing. So when I first started meditating was, I want to be a bit more focused in my exams. I want to be a bit more focused in my job interviews. And then over time, it changes a lot. And maybe today, this morning, the reason was, I want to create a nice class, create a clear and focused lecture. So it might keep changing day to day, but there's also the overarching principle which guides. Thank you to stay in the moment more and more. So one thing that all of these things have in common, we need to kind of do two things to find the balance, to spread the love, to stay in the moment, all of these things. So the first one is to really learn mastery over the mind. So the mind is so unruly. So we all hear this term of the monkey mind. We want one thing and we try to do that, and then next moment it's already gone and doing something else which we actually maybe didn't want or didn't think it was so important. So to master the mind, the word samadhi is a Pali word which means to kind of collect and gather the mind onto what we deem relevant, onto what we deem important to focus on. And secondly, also to use that mastery of the mind, to use that kind of more clarity, more calm, more focus, to really get to know ourselves, to understand ourselves very deeply, and to develop panya, panya means wisdom in Pali. So to replace the misunderstanding of what we think makes us happy, what we think makes us suffer, what we think we need, with really wisdom that comes from really knowing ourselves, to know ourselves very deeply, from the most obvious conscious things to the most deep, most subtle things, to understand what are the sources of my suffering, what are the sources of my happiness, because often those are not what we think, or we just work with the apparent reality with, doing this makes me happy, and doing this makes me happy, but what is really happening here at our experience level? So we have these two things which we'll be working with. We have sila, the morality, we have samadhi, the mastery of the mind, and we have panya, to deeply know yourself. And so this leads me into my next point. So our usual way of being in this world is, here's me and here's the world. And I interact with the different things in the world, and some of them make me happy, some of them make me less happy. So kind of the source of my happiness, the source of my suffering is always out there. Or maybe it is here. It is because I am like this, or I am like that. Or because I'm good, or because I'm bad, or because I'm beautiful, or because I'm ugly, or because... So we work with this very apparent reality and this relationality of me in the world. And that's how we spend our time, to fix the things on the outside, to fix the things here, in my appearance, in my personality, or whatever. And when we practice meditation, we just shift this balance a little bit. Just for the 2 hours a day, we are shifting. And instead, we are focusing more on your experience of you in the world. So everything you are experiencing right now, what you see, what you think, what you hear, what you feel in your body, is your experience of you in the world. So rather than giving so much importance to the content of that experience, to the objects of that experience, we give more importance to actually the experience of it, the thinking, the hearing, the sensation. in other words, this is body and mind. So the body and mind is how we interact with the world, how we know the world. So we have the body, which is kind of the five senses: the hearing, the seeing, the smelling, the tasting, the touching. And through these senses, the world interacts with us, and through this body, we interact with the world. And then, of course, the mind, which is kind of all the rest, all our ideas, all our thoughts, our desires, our imagination, our memories, our perceptions, our judgments, our likes, our dislikes. The mind is a lot more complicated. So we shift this focus from you and the world, running around in the world and doing things, to taking away that stimulation and just sitting with our body and our mind in the way, and try to understand, try to master this unruliness, and to observe this and to understand deeper and deeper how it works through our experience, not through our ideas, but through our experience. So yeah, shifting this focus. Okay. So mastering the mind. So as I was saying, samadhi means to collect and gather the mind. And this is really what we'll be practicing in the first 4 days of the course. To practice this gathering and collectedness of the mind. So, nice analogy, and maybe some of you know it, is this mind is like a kind of cup, a cup of dirt, and all of the dirt is kind of stirred up, and the water is murky, and there's many particles floating around. And all we're doing is sitting still and giving some focus point. And this is already settling down. Once you stop continuously stirring the mind, the kind of dirt settles down and the water becomes a bit more clear. So, yes. Why did I keep jumping? So we need a technique for this. So this is the kind of objective, to collect and gather the mind. And our technique for this, which is also a preparation for the Vipassana practice, just to be clear, we can collect and gather the mind with many different meditations, and maybe some of you have already worked with kind of the samadhi meditation, samatha meditation, also called, focusing on a mantra, focusing on visualizing, focusing in anything where you're really repeatedly trying to bring focus to one subject. Is kind of to collect and gather the mind onto one subject. And in this course, we will be working with the breath, because it is a really nice preparation for the Vipassana technique, which we'll do later. So the technique is to attend to the breath. So to keep attending to the breath, to really bring our attention back to the breath, but kind of be aware of what's also going on, in the background. So not to try and ignore and completely push away everything else, but to keep this breath in the center point and allow everything else to come and go in the background, and to allow the sounds to come and go, the things that you hear, to allow other feelings in the body to come and go, to allow the thoughts to come and go. And of course, sometimes you will follow them and then realize like, oh, I've been thinking for 3 minutes or something. And then you gently come back to attending to the breath. And I would like to just give a little bit of an example of what this balance between attention and awareness. So if you just look at a point anywhere in the room, don't look at the screen, but just look at an object that is in this room, maybe a mug or a table or a chair or anything in your room. Just let your gaze rest on this thing. So I'm looking at a fruit bowl on the table. So the visual field here representing the mind, and our attention is here our focal point of the thing we are looking at. But there's still everything else happening around that object we're looking at. So there's other objects, there's feeling of space. So you can notice that even if you keep one point of your attention, the other things keep appearing. So when we meditate with this technique of attending to the breath, we're going to keep the breath at the center of our focus, just like we are looking at this object now. But we're not going to try to look so closely and kind of drown everything else out or focus very intently on it. This will build a lot of tension. But to keep allowing the rest of the experience, the awareness, the periphery to keep happening. And actually this will help because you can start to notice the distractions earlier as they come in. So usually for example, now if you imagine that a cockroach walked into the room, your vision would immediately jump to that cockroach. So something that we really don't like usually draws our attention, draws our vision. Or maybe if there was something really beautiful, maybe there would be a sunset happening outside the window and your eyes would also get drawn to that sunset and want to look at the sunset. It's the same when we meditate. We have our focus object and different things come in and out. Things we like, things we don't like, and it is part of the nature of mind for this to happen. Thoughts about planning the future, thoughts about anxiety, worry, sometimes more neutral things. But all we do when we notice that our gaze has strayed off to something, we just gently bring it back to this focal point. Okay, you can bring your attention back to the screen. So we are really cultivating this awareness of where our attention is and what it is and what we are attending to, and we get better and better in this. Okay. Our technique is to elevate our baseline level of non-distraction and focus. So the distraction that we constantly face in our daily lives is the same distraction that we face in our meditation. So in meditation, your mind will be distracted and want to do different things, but we just gently bring it back to our meditation object. And that's a skill that directly translates into every part of your life. There's nothing in your life which is not impacted by your level of non-distractibility, your level of focus. And I don't mean the kind of effortful focus that requires a lot of tension. I mean actually an effortless focus. Your kind of baseline, if you're not really trying to be focused, how easy it is for your mind to gather around what you're doing. So whether that is at work, trying to do some task that you're staying in task on, and anything related to that. Whether it is in your relationships, having a conversation with a friend, whether it is doing your exercise or movement, your yoga practice, your movement practice, whatever you do, to stay with the feeling of it, the sensation of it, the flow of it, or maybe even your ability when you wake up in the morning and when we wake up, we tend to be a bit groggy and sleepy and maybe have some negative thoughts. Your ability just to harness the mind and gather the mind onto, okay, what do I need to do right now? Or what do I want to do? Or maybe I just want to lie here because it's Sunday morning, and that's okay also. But our level of presence and non-distractibility and focus that comes effortlessly at our baseline level is relevant in all parts of our life. So this is the mastery of the mind, to be able to focus on what we deem relevant. Wow, I really need to figure out how to actually do this. I'm trying a new way. So now I'm having everything on one page instead of having a slide deck like before. So the last thing that I want to share is about a principle when we're doing this. So you understand the technique. And there's a very useful guiding principle that that really helps with this practice of attending, of focusing on the breath. So our level of tension or relaxation can be a big habit. So I would like to ask you, from a scale of 1 to 5, and 5 being tense effort and 1 being relaxed laziness, how do you usually approach the things in your life? Are you very more like kind of serious and really using also this willpower and pushing to get the things done, to work on your relationships, to power through this exercise, to do whatever you wish? Or do you tend to be more kind of this easygoing, relaxed, lazy, sometimes that effortlessness can be good? You kind of let things happen by themselves. How do you interact with the things in your life? Or maybe it changes a lot. So we have 4, 5, 4, 3, 2 or 3, 4, 3. Changes a lot. Nice. What's a range, Arik? 1 to 3, 3 to 5. Winter is a 3. Keelan is a 5. 2 to 4. Great. So yes, I also think when I started, I was a 5. I used to put a lot of effort and tension, and it comes from studying and working and things, and kind of okay, it is the willpower which makes this happen. But then also sometimes that kind of flips into the opposite, into complete lack of motivation, and I don't want to actually do it, and laziness. So what we are really learning to do in this practice, in a more broader sense, is how to utilize tonus or tension of our mind, our effort, while still staying very relaxed and effortless and easy. So the kind of gold standard is effortless focus. And of course, we have to use some effort to cultivate that habit, to get to that point. But there's this beautiful principle of the right effort. So in meditation, we want to not just use effort, we want to use the right effort. The effort that is not too tight, not too tense. So don't try to really focus super hard for the whole hour on this meditation object and banish all thoughts as soon as they arise. It will create a lot of tension and stress. So see, but also not going towards the other extreme of being so lazy that you keep or so relaxed that you keep dreaming off and you're thinking for 10 minutes until my voice brings you back. And then maybe you're back for a second or two, and then you kind of dream until my voice comes in again. So you really also want to cultivate this ability yourself to come back. But to do this in a relaxed and easy way, like, oh, my mind has drifted off. Okay, I come back. Oh, my mind has drifted off. You kind of wake up from that moment and you just bring it back. Very matter of fact, I just accept that the mind has drifted and I bring it back. So in this relaxed way, but still with some effort, with some intentionality that you're putting in. So the Buddha also calls this the middle way of effort, the middle way of the right attitude. The Buddha, he himself, was a prince and had kind of everything he wanted, and all good with. He was going to become the next king of a province, had a nice wife, and even they had a child, and he kind of reversed this, and because he was really trying to find the root cause of the suffering, so he went off into alone and become ascetic monk. So he kind of was super into self-mutilation and harming and not eating for so long, and really forcing the mind with this striving, effortful approach into trying to find the root cause of suffering. And at some point he was so weak, he was nearly going to die, and then some villager from a nearby village brought him some kind of rice milk, which he drank, and he kind of regained back his strength. So he kind of made himself comfortable enough, and he practiced underneath the Bodhi tree, and in this way he attained his enlightenment a few weeks later. So not to overindulge, not to kind of just swim in the desires and follow everything, but also not to use too much effort, and it is not about suffering. So for example, with the posture, when we're sitting in the posture, we are trying to keep this posture. It is really helpful to keep the upright spine, the cross-leggedness if you can, otherwise sitting on a chair. And to try and really to put some effort to maintain this way, because it's very helpful. But also if you start feeling a lot of pain in your knees or anywhere else, you can slowly and gently move. You don't need to go all the way until the end of suffering, until your knee falls off. So finding this middle way of not too tense, not too loose. And that might be different every day, what that balance is. And it also depends a lot on your habit. So here I asked you about what you are usually, and that habit will surface in the meditation. So you usually tend to approach things with a lot of tension, with a lot of effort. And when you are attending to the breath, this will appear. So then just to remember to relax in the appropriate measure. And over time, you will be able to create this effortless tension, essentially. So it is a little bit like, meditation is a little bit like gardening, or it is a little bit like cultivating a plant. So we can't really force it to grow. We can only create the right conditions for it to continue developing. So you don't need to master it today or tomorrow, but you should continue to show up in your meditation twice a day, and you provide the right conditions. You water this plant, you tend to the weeds that tend to grow in, the weeds being the different distractions of the mind, the hindrances. You kind of remove them when they appear. Oh, okay, I'm thinking and planning and worrying or remembering about something, and I just come back to the task, the focus. And over time, this thing grows by itself, but it takes time. And like cultivating anything, it is a process that is not always linear. Sometimes we feel we regress, sometimes progress, but we move in a direction. Okay. Excellent. There's the whole map. I will send the screenshot in the chat. But let us close the eyes and I will just go through these ideas in a bigger picture and just to kind of review it. So closing down the eyes. So we have the practice of sila, the practice of morality, to do no harm, to do more good. The 5 precepts help support this. We were also moving deeper into our experience. We practice meditation. So it's important to know why we want to meditate. And why we want to meditate really takes 2 things: to master the mind and to really know yourself deeper and deeper. So we are working with our experience of the world and not with the objects of the world, the contents of the world. So our experience of body and mind at the present moment. And the skill of samadhi, the skill of mastering the mind, is to collect and gather the mind, to let the mind settle. And with this kind of level of focus with our concentration, later we will also practice Vipassana to move into the field of wisdom, into Panya, to direct the stronger, more powerful mind at knowing ourselves more deeply, so that we're not just thinking about things all the time. So the technique for doing this for the first 4 days is to attend to the breath, but not to collapse too much into the attention, so to be aware of things that are happening in the background also, but our focus point is always the breath, our center point is the breath, which helps us to elevate our baseline level of effortless focus. And to balance the level of tension and relaxation, so to use the right effort, to find the middle way in how we're practicing, which is changing day by day, hour by hour, and even within 1 hour it can change. So not to be too tense, but not to be too loose with it, and creating the right conditions for this mind to continue cultivating samadhi, to continue cultivating this collectedness, this calm abiding in the focus object. Okay. So we have some time. You can open the eyes again. We have some time for questions or comments. You can ask about the lecture or the meditation, the posture. Anything is up for. We're trying to keep it relevant to meditation. And you can, yeah, you can maybe, if you want, you raise your hand. There's this kind of raise hand function, or you can also write in the chat. Either is fine. Question regarding the posture. I tend to sit with my legs on each side, feet to the back. Is that okay to? Yes. So more like a kneeling posture, on your knees. Sounds like. Yeah. So maybe you have usually you need a slightly higher cushion for this. So putting something underneath your pelvis. And yeah, then you can kind of kneel and go into like a kneeling position. like so, and then putting something underneath. That is, yeah, that is a nice posture also, and actually can be easier for keeping the spine straighter. What else is there?
Can I ask something?
Sure. Go ahead.
Wanted to ask, while so we're talking here about this triangle, right? Like upper lips and the nostrils, right? It's like a triangle, but that's where we should concentrate. Now, is it important, like, is our aim here to detect, to concentrate on that, or to put our attention on that in relation to the breath, like how the breath touches this area? Because sometimes I cannot detect this touch sensation, but I can keep my attention here and just watch for other sensations, or just keep the attention here. So how important it is to actually feel the breath touching this particular area, or it's not very important?
Yes, great question. Yeah, this is important to say actually. So we start with the breath as an idea. It's something that comes in, it's something that goes out, and you can feel that inside the nostrils maybe, or maybe you can just get a general sense for, I'm inhaling, or I'm exhaling, or I know this is a long inhale, I know this is a long exhale, I know this is a short inhale. So the feeling of breathing. And this is creating some concentration. But to go deeper, we're also then focusing on the sensations of it. So as you were saying, like, oh, sometimes I can really feel the breath passing the area. And if you can feel that, then focus on that. But then sometimes again, it slips away, and then feel more the general feeling of the breath coming and going. But essentially, the more smaller and the more subtle the object of concentration, the more concentrated, the more samadhi will be built. But of course, sometimes we are more agitated and more not so focused, and then we need to work with something more obvious, like the feeling of the breathing, and maybe even in the whole body if you cannot feel it here at all. And then do that for some time, and then again you focus more closely.
Yeah, interesting. Because I'm asking because I can feel it more easily in the nostrils themselves, but if I go to the nostrils, it's out of that triangle. So yeah, like I can detect certain areas in the body where I can feel the breath better in a more vivid way, but then I go out of this triangle if I do that.
Yeah. So you can, so that is better. If you do outside of the triangle, it's better than nothing. It's better than just lost in thought. So feeling it anywhere, feeling it maybe in the whole body, the breath, but then really seeing if you can come in a bit closer, it will help.
Mm-hmm. So to summarize, it is important to feel the breath touching that particular area. So that's the bottom line, right? It is important to feel, to get, if possible, to get to the feeling of the breath touching or relating to that particular triangle. So that's the bottom line, if I understand it right.
As it happens, like it will happen more or less at some point, but not to make it so much about this goal of feeling that, but actually just about the
Sure, but I mean the general intention is that
move in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you. So someone asking, can you recommend something to make it easier to come back from the meditative state to arrive again? Okay, so you mean at the end of the meditation, somehow when you are going back to the normal things. So one thing is, over time it gets easier. So over time it's so easy just to pick things up again. But one thing that helps is just to let go of the meditation, to let go of what just happened in the last hour when the gong goes off. Okay, now I don't have to try and maintain anything, not trying to hold on to any particular state or way. I let it go, and I go and engage with the things around. So actually to re-engage with something like, okay, what do I need now? Okay, I'm going to go maybe after the morning meditation. Okay, now I go drink my tea, or now I go to work or something, and just to kind of orient to some purpose. This really helps with not being too spaced out or floaty and things. And that's not the goal of meditation either, to be spaced out and floaty. But sometimes that of course happens after we're focusing, or especially if we're very dreamy in our meditation, we tend to be more spaced out. Actually, if you have a clear meditation, you will be able to come out of it like nothing. It's the same thing to engage with, to focus on making my breakfast as it is to focus on my breath. It is the same quality of collectedness around that activity.
Can I elaborate on my question? Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you again
Absolutely.
for your answer. So I noticed that there is some fear coming up when I focus on my breathing instead of my thoughts, because I think I've been I'm attaching a lot during the day to my thoughts. And then when I try and create that space, there is fear coming up that I might get stuck in that dreamy state, or that's kind of where my question was coming from, how to get back into the body and like back into a normal operating state, if that makes sense.
So just to clarify, usually throughout the day, you're giving importance to thinking and thoughts and the ideas. And in meditation, you're kind of shifting the focus more towards the body, the breath, and you feel fear doing it this way to come to the body and the breath, or you feel fear at the end of the meditation that thoughts are coming?
Yeah, no, the first. So like coming back to the body and the breath, I've done as a preparation for the 10-day course. I've done a few of your meditations on YouTube, and that was fine. But now that there is the first ones we did now, there is much more space in between. So in between you talking, so I found it more difficult, and the fear comes in when I'm too long focusing on my breath and not on my thoughts anymore. It's like a kind of a protective kind of feeling, I guess, in a way, that fear kind of kicks in. If that makes sense.
Okay, good. Yeah, so it's important not to focus and hold too much to the breath. So this is why I give this example of you're looking at something, but you're also aware of what's around it. So when thoughts come, anxiety can be there if we try to push those thoughts away and really focus too intently on the object. So I invite you maybe to hold the breath a bit more loosely, like rather than like a very physical analogy would be to grip this object and try to hold the breath here, and try to push it away, come, and I try to hold this here. But much more this kind of like open hand, I hold the breath here, thoughts come, and sometimes we get distracted, and sometimes we come back, and not to push the thoughts away, just to recognize them coming, to recognize them going. And the key thing is also to really appreciate this moment of waking up from the thoughts. So thoughts come and you are lost in them for some time, and I just appreciate, I have this light, gentle attitude towards thinking, towards the breath also, and this will help not to create too much tensionality in the body mind.
Okay, thank you so much.
And yeah, I'm curious if that comment helps. Maybe it doesn't help, but just to let me know if you try that and how it changes your experience.
I will. Thank you.
Maybe through message. Cool. Thank you. Okay. Is there something else before we finish?
Just one quick question. Morning, I try to do 1 hour, and that wasn't very easy. So would it help if we do a smaller, like 15, 20 minutes during the day? Or the smaller sessions don't help at all? It has to be an extended one.
So it's normal that the hour is more difficult, and you'll find it getting easier throughout the 10 days. And I would say that for the first few days, try to meditate 2 hours a day. But if you need to, if you need to quit a little bit early and then you do the 10, 15 minutes a bit later, try to see if you can really get 2 hours for the first few days. And then it will become easier and easier to sit for the full hour. And of course, it is physically uncomfortable, mentally uncomfortable as we sit for that hour. But there is also good reason for this. So we are really learning to face all of that. So all of the things that come in reaction to that, the boredom, the discomfort, the anxiety, irritation, and all that, it is a situation where we are seeing that process happen. And as long as we can stay a little bit in this gentleness, not to be too overwhelmed by it, this is a good meditation. So we don't have to be super calm and peaceful all the time. And we are in this type of meditation, we are facing ourselves and being with that, but in a very gentle way.
So basically, that means that it's good to have 1 hour sitting meditation in the morning and evening, irrespective of how well we are able to do in that 1 hour, probably. Like what my experience this morning was, because I'm not used to sitting for 1 hour, I hardly do like 20 minutes or 30 minutes max. So 1 hour was quite extended. So I shifted my positions a few times, and then of course my mind was wandering after 20 minutes everywhere. So I was using the guided meditation that you had sent. So it definitely helped. But then beyond 20, 30 minutes, it became like really overwhelming for me that I have to sit for 30 minutes. I was like pushing myself. I thought too much. But that's why I asked. But I think that's the way it has to be. I mean, we should sit for at least an hour, probably.
For this course, yeah. I mean, after, I don't recommend 2 hours if it's not sustainable. But
Okay.
Finding the principle of the middle way. So if you really have to effort and push so hard and you feel so sit at this, and then maybe just take it easy. Like maybe maybe you can just get up and stand for a few minutes and just kind of meditate in that posture for a while. It's unbearable, and then sit down again. But see if you can really have that space of 2 hours, or maybe you
I'll
really
try that.
The middle way.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'll try.
I see.
Can I ask something?
1 second. I see
sorry.
someone asked a question in the chat. I'm just going to
Yes.
answer that one first. Why can we know ourselves through meditation since we think nothing during the meditation? And that's a great question. So the first thing is, meditation is not about not thinking. Meditation is about recognizing that thinking as the activity, the experience that's happening at the moment. See if you can really not think for an hour, and I guarantee you it is very, very, very difficult. And it's not the point to push out all thoughts and never to think again. This is not the point of meditation. But as we focus on this object, many thoughts will come, your reactions will come, your habits will come, your habits of aversion, your habits of chasing after things, chasing after plans, your anxiety, all of that will surface, will keep surfacing. And that is the nature. You can't make it stop. And over time, you see how that works. Not caught in the content of it, oh, I need to plan this, but see how the planning arises, how the planning passes away, how the anxiety arises, how it comes, what causes and conditions create that state of mind of anxiety, of anger, of irritation, of sadness, and what causes and conditions cause that to also subside. And everything is constantly changing, all these things, and you see, the more you see that process, And the more you deeply get to know yourself very experientially. Not by thinking about yourself, who am I, but just by seeing what actually happens in your experience. So maybe the last question. You were gonna ask something, Sol and Dan?
Yes. Hello, Raymar. Can you hear me well? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, hello, everyone. I don't know how to put this in words. I will try to express myself the best possible. I want to know your opinion because I already have my opinion about it, but I want to know from your experience. I relate this practice of focusing on the breath. I relate it with the state of being the observer of the observer, no? To being here, watching ourselves, you know? Do you relate this practice of watching the breath with that, or do you think that might help us to be in that state of being the observer of the observer? What do you think about it?
Yeah.
I mean, when I say the observer of the observer, I mean like being in the present moment, conscious about, I don't know how to describe it, but like trying to find the balance in being in this 3-dimension plane, doing daily activities, but also being connected, to not being attached to myself, but at the same time being, like you said, we watch the breath, but we also want to be conscious about all us around us with the same awareness. You know what I mean? With the same presence. So I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. What you're saying is right. And we kind of it is a process. So it is a path, and to watch the breath is to cultivate some kind of stability of the mind, to cultivate this attention, and also to be aware of the entire things. Like first you might just be aware of the sounds and then the thoughts, but as this awareness becomes more refined, more clear, you start to recognize more and more of the activity of body and mind, and you move further and further away from the identification with all of that. So in the beginning we are identified with our thoughts, our body, and I am this and I'm focusing on this. And the more you just see that process happening, the whole process of body and mind, and the more you disidentify and recognize all these things are just appearing and disappearing. There is no me, there is no mine, there is no I, there is no, everything is changing, it is impermanent, and holding on to this, grasping onto this creates discomfort, creates suffering. And it is, but there's a technique, there's a process to kind of go deeper and see all of that. And for now we are using the breath. Later we will use all the body sensations to have more insight, to have more clarity into the entire process of body and mind. But yeah, it's exactly right what you're saying. We are kind of just learning to be aware, just the pure awareness of what's happening without reacting to it, without thinking about it. And the deeper we go, the more we can kind of maintain or see them.
Thank you.
But it's also important not to get too carried away or philosophical about this thing, these ideas, because they are just ideas, and we need to see it directly. We need to see it more clearly. So we have some help, some technique. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Yeah, appreciate you joining, and there will be a Q&A on Monday if there's more questions, which I'm sure there will be, or you can ask in the chat. And on Wednesday will be the next talk, the next session like this. So I wish you the best of luck with the practice, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.